when we were at the National American Legion convention just recently in New Orleans, you had
Hmm.
a table for Save a Warrior,
Yes.
and you were so busy,
Yeah.
and it's impactful. And so I know you because we went to class together, National American Legion College
Hmm.
2019, the best class ever. Hello.
Yes.
And
District 1. We had
District
so much
4,
fun.
I think we stole the Shatner away from you. I think. I don't remember what we ended up. We
Maybe
ended up with the
once.
Eagle. Hmm?
Maybe once.
Yeah. We had the Tube of Unknown. It was a lot of fun.
So much fun. Great
Yes.
camaraderie.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've appreciated about the very fact that we have college at the national level is we
Hmm.
get to cross germinate with people. I would have
Hmm.
never known you ever. And so if I hadn't been in college, I would have not known, hey, that's Suzette
Hmm.
Heller. And now she's with Save a Warrior, and I need to talk with her further about this program. And
Yes.
so I'm very thankful that we found time. And that's what we're here today to talk about is Save a Warrior. And because I think it's out of Ohio.
It is. We are located in Hillsboro, which is probably an hour east of Cincinnati, roughly an hour and a half south of Columbus.
Okay. And then do you must take people from all over the United States?
We do.
Oh,
And we've had people as far as the UK. We've had veterans as far as Alaska, Hawaii,
oh my
hmm
gosh. Can you
Puerto
tell
Rico.
Puerto Rico?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about Save a Warrior. How did it get started?
Very interesting.
Hmm.
Our founder, Jay Clark, who actually spoke at the TBI PTS ad hoc, well,
Okay.
which is now a full on committee at National.
Uh-huh.
He was one of the guest speakers. And Jay Clark, very interesting man. He is just a very special man. He created this in 2012. He'd been looking at this
Hmm.
issue of PTS.
Hmm.
He couldn't figure out why veterans kept, committing suicide.
Right.
They were, these heroes, and they'd been doing, these multiple tours and coming home, and
Hmm.
and they had all these benefits with the VA and all these services, and why are they killing themselves?
Right.
And so, he himself, he's from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. He's a veteran. He was in the California National Guard. He was conscripted at 17. His father was a Vietnam era veteran. He went in the military at 17, and he's also a former LAPD, former Secret Service, and a former special agent for the FBI.
Oh
And
my.
so he's very familiar with how a bureaucracy works, right?
Right.
Yeah, and systems, right? And just he'd been looking at this issue for a long time. He has his own story. I'm not going to tell that. I'll
Hmm.
leave that up to him to tell. And
Sure.
you can Google him. He's a very interesting man. You can go to saveawarrior.org. We
Hmm.
have a media page there, and there's he talks a lot about how he created this, and we have a YouTube channel. There's a lot of things out there about Jay Clark, but he just really had this affinity for veterans who were committing suicide, who were these war heroes, and they just come home and commit suicide. It just
Yeah.
dumbfounded him. And there's a lot of things that he discovered that he wasn't looking for. He didn't expect to find that, complex post traumatic stress was really at the heart, not just PTS, right?
Hmm.
But he didn't expect to find the complex post traumatic stress piece, which is the formative trauma piece with the moral injury piece collapsed on top of
Yeah.
it. So, formative trauma is everything that happens to us before the age of 18.
Mm.
That covers abuse, neglect, and violence. abandonment, all those things,
Mhm.
poverty. So Kaiser Permanente in the 80s and 90s,
Mhm.
they developed this 10 question, this 10-part questionnaire. It's called Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Right.
And, you know, um, the average ACEs score and in 2018, he really discovered that. And in 2018, we started utilizing that
Mhm.
in our cohorts. We started applying that. Like he discovered very early on in 2012 when he started implementing these cohorts,
Mhm.
and really looking at this problem. Um, but he started with the data in like
Mhm.
17, 18 with that ACEs, that average childhood
Right.
experiences questionnaire, and really looking at the data. And so what he discovered is that the average ACEs score of a warrior who was suicidal
Mhm.
was a 7. That would come through our organization, that would come through our experience.
And that's a
At that
higher
time,
number.
it was a 5-day experience. Now
Okay.
it's a 72-hour experience.
Okay.
And it's no surprise that also the average ACEs score of a felon in the US penitentiary system is also a 7. So what he discovered
Mhm.
is the problem is really centered in our thinking. And so that was not something he was looking for. And also, um, you know, when because we have the data, then we do post data, we get
Mhm.
that data 72 hours later. Also,
Mhm.
what he discovered is the data that we collect right at the beginning of the cohort, and then we collect it again 72 hours later, those scores increase 35 to 40%. They increase.
Mhm.
And then they come back for an intensive, they also increase again. So we have pre, post, and post data.
Okay.
That also increases because the memories are, always break through. So, I mean, these are things he wasn't expecting to find.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bring up the multifunctional, the systems of a human being. And
Yes.
I think in our culture in America, we have always thought of the siloed approach, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, which we used to identify
Mm.
specifically only as religious. And then we only looked at one. We didn't see how they impacted each other.
Well, Kelley, I think how you you could describe that is um, it's we're looked at from a medical model standpoint,
Yep.
when really what it is, it's more of an ontological. So
Hmm.
we could look at this from a biopsychosocial spiritual ontological standpoint. That's
It's,
really who we are as human beings. And
yeah.
you're absolutely right. You're looking in the right direction on that.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the medical model. We as
No.
human beings,
Uh-huh.
don't try to fit us into this medical model. And that's what this culture that we live in, this Western culture, really tries to fit us into, is this medical model. And yeah, because you can monetize the medical model,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
There's a benefit to that,
you just
right?
hit the nail on the head, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, and look
Monetizing.
at yeah, and you can like create one template from that. I mean, I went to Michigan, right? I'm a
Mhm.
psychology and a women and gender studies. I'm a double major.
Okay.
And you look at the medical model, it's all based on the male system as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everything's based on the male model, right?
Mhm.
Everything.
So we're our
So you
military
could
uniform.
even narrow it down even further, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
How
we're
did you
not.
get
That's not
involved?
who we are, right?
No.
Yeah.
What piqued your curiosity about Save a Warrior that you're now on board? I'm assuming you're a paid staff member.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm the director of business development, but I'm also an alumni. And it's funny because our
Uh-huh.
founder, he's so funny. He'd say, he's the president. He'll be like, I'm not also, I'm not just the president. I'm also a hair club member. Remember those commercials back in the day? I'm not
Right.
just the hair club president. I'm also a member. But Anyway, um, so in 2016, backstory on me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I served in the United States Army. When I came home in 2005, I came from Fort Drum, New York, 10th Mountain Division. I served active
Oh,
duty, National Guard, active duty,
oh,
and I didn't deploy. But I was always in a support role. Okay.
mhm.
And I came home in 2005, and my life was, was crashing and burning very fast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I developed alcoholism, and, I've since been sober since
Mm.
2005. I'm coming up on 19 years of sobriety. I
Yay.
absolutely love it. I'm living, it's the best decision I've ever made for myself, honestly. And, I came through healing a very different way, right? I didn't come through Save a Warrior as my healing journey, but I will tell you that what I know is that every suffering warrior that comes through our program,
Mhm.
that was me. I was there. I was on that path. And
Right.
really if you look at Joseph Campbell, right, The Hero's Journey, the
Mhm.
classic storytelling, we
Mhm.
all have a story,
Yeah.
right? And my story fits right in there. And when I came to my descent, if we look at the heroine's journey, Maureen Murdoch, right, who was a student of Joseph Campbell, and if we look at the heroine's journey, and I look at my descent, you know, um, I was in that place of darkness, like total darkness, and
Mhm.
I didn't have the courage to commit suicide, but I will tell you, I didn't. I had no will to live,
Right.
no will to live at this point, right?
Yep.
And something happened. There was a moment, and something happened for me. And I went into a completely different direction. It was a very spiritual moment. And I
Mm.
went in a different direction. And I just, recreated my life
Mm.
in that moment. And from that moment on. And that was November 1st, 2005. And, you know, so fast forward, I completed my degree. I graduated from Michigan 2011. I had been advocating, I'd been in Student Veterans of America. I'd been advocating, for veterans. I got connected with the VSOs. I went to work for the American Legion
Mhm.
the day after I graduated, right?
Oh.
I agreed to work for the American Legion in April. I graduated May 10th. I went to work for the American Legion on May 11th,
Mhm.
May 11th, I think it was, of 2011, or May 2nd, 2011. And I relocated. That was in Michigan. I relocated to Ohio, and I took a position with them in January of 2013. I was the Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Director. I started off as a service officer, and it was 2016. I'm 10 minutes. I live 10 minutes from headquarters, and I'm overseeing the offices that help veterans, and I'm just, I'm all enmeshed in all things helping veterans. I'm
Mhm.
filing claims. I'm listening to warriors who are coming home thinking that the VA is trying to kill them, right? Vietnam veterans, they're waiting till I die. Post 9/11 veterans, like, I cannot handle this, like, I'm going to kill myself, right? I need help. My claim is taking forever, and they can't function nor get a job, or they can't handle the rigor of college, right?
Yeah.
Um, or take care of their family, or whatever it is. They've
Yeah.
got themselves in debt,
Mhm.
yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like swimming in this,
Yeah.
and always working to like figure out the solution. I mean, I'm swamped and enmeshed, engrossed, and working with national and the staff, and just everybody, the state. And I'm driving to work, and I hear this radio segment, and it's Jake Clark talking about Sable Warrior, and I knew there was something different about this. And
Mm.
so my coworker also heard the same radio segment, and he said, call them and get them. Let's talk to them. I'm like, okay. And so we reached out to them, and within a week they were in the library at our headquarters. And this is
Oh,
2016.
oh my.
Yeah, they're sitting in our headquarters, and we have a meeting with them.
Uh-huh.
And just the conversation, I'm sitting across from Jake, and it was me, Patrick Atkinson, and Tom Simons, and we're sitting across from them, and it's just a different conversation. There's something different about this. And, Tom and Patrick, at this time, they had paused the female program for reasons. Things went sideways with the women at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but they were still producing the male cohorts. Um, and so he invited Tom and Patrick to come to a male cohort in December. So this had to be like October, November. And they were taking place in Malibu, California. And so Tom and Patrick went to the December to Remember cohort, they called it. And this is 2016. And I could see the change in these two men. And I kept saying to Jake, when's the next female cohort? Like, I really want to go. And but I didn't go. There wasn't any. But in 17, he comes into my office. Jake does, and he's like, "Hey, we've got this thing going on with the females, and it's going to be in Bandera, Texas. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I go, and it's this equine retreat with these other females who were alumni, and they'd already been. And there's 5 of us who have never been, and it was just so powerful. Even this being with these other women who have already been, and with these other women who were not, and just these pieces of the curriculum that he has, right, of trauma processing,
Okay.
right, processing formative trauma,
Okay.
right, in a very particular way, was just very powerful for me, and I spent, 4 or 5 days with them, and it was just really powerful. But, I've always had a synergy with this organization since 2016, and I've always sent warriors to him. I've always sent donors to him, and, we've always helped them. And, and he's always brought me into the fold and always made me a part of their organization whenever they've had anything happening. And, we've just always worked together, and, so fast forward, I leave the American Legion in 2021 because we got the law passed to modernize charitable gaming. That took us 10 years to do. We went from the state of Ohio went from fundraising 90 million in charitable gaming to now fundraising 900 million in charitable gaming.
Oh my.
So a charitable gaming company approaches me from Cleveland and asked me if I would help them implement this. And I'd never really marketed myself after, I graduated. I'd been with the Legion for, almost 11 years by now. And I'm like, I'm the state adjutant at this time. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
But I felt like a duty to now help these posts implement something that's going to change their life. This is going to change the trajectory of these posts and fraternals for the duration
Right.
of their existence. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a part of that because they're clueless on how this is going to, they need help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Maybe that's the
something
rescuer
happens,
in me.
Suzette. From 21 to 24, something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gaming really wasn't filling my cup. Listen, I went in full intention. Like, I really I'm going to help them. Like, and maybe that was part of me being a rescuer. Like, I really want to help them. But really what happened was, I really did. That was my intention. That was genuinely like, I want to help you. And I did. And I did the best I could.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that, gaming companies are great, but these are for-profit corporations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they're for-profit corporations.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. There's a lot that could be said.
Yeah. They're for-profit corporations. Like, my cup's much bigger than that, you know?
Yeah.
So, Jay Clark's like, will you please come work for us? Because he'd been trying to get me to come work for him. And I was like, I'd
Oh,
always been with the Legion. And I probably would have never left the Legion to go work for Save a Warrior. But, he caught me in a moment with the gaming company.
Jay.
And I was like, and I'd always, dabbled at the idea of coming to work for Save a Warrior because I really believe in what they're doing. I always
Mm-hmm.
believed in what they're doing. And and when I made that leap, I will tell you, the first thing that went through my mind is
Mm-hmm.
when I made the leap,
Uh-huh.
why did I wait so long? Like, what
Really?
was I so afraid of?
Oh.
Because, and that's really what it was. I think it was fear that was holding me
Mm-hmm.
back because I've never been so free and fully self expressed in my life. Honestly, I've never been so free and fully self expressed in my life. That's
I
the honest to God truth.
I don't know you that well,
Mm
but when I saw you in 2019
hmm. Mm
to when I saw you at convention, and I just my short interactions that I had with you,
hmm. Mm
there was something different. It
hmm.
was a
Mm
very freeing experience. I could feel completeness,
hmm. Mm
that sensory. I don't think you would have ever had to say anything. It was
hmm. Mm
just,
hmm.
it's palpable, that energy.
Thank you.
You're
I,
welcome.
re- I really appreciate you recognizing that and saying
Hmm.
that because, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Save a Warrior, like I can really be who I really am. Like,
Mm,
with I can really be who I am, you know?
yeah.
And
Um,
that's how our that's who we are. That's it. So yeah. Yeah,
I'm
that's
holding up, I grabbed this at the table, the Save
uh-huh.
a Warrior, and it's the QR code. And I
Mhm.
thought that is really genius to use that card because that's a military thing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that there is like a smaller version of
Oh, there's more.
yeah, yeah. That's like a smaller version and I'll just really quickly
Excuse me.
grab like a larger version of yeah, like they're usually like regular plain size.
Oh, okay.
Like this is my business card here.
Oh,
Yeah.
smart,
But
smart.
those are more reasonable, cost effective because we're all about cost effectiveness. This is the extent of our marketing. You will see. And so what now just sit with me for a minute.
Okay.
Now, what you're holding there,
Yeah,
like in that card says a lot,
it
okay?
does.
That's the extent of our marketing, okay? And if you're really looking, like what you'll see is there's a lot of uniqueness and
Okay.
novelty in that card. That
It
card is
means
a representation of who we are. It's novel, it's unique. And that's like the extent of our marketing.
there's
So
no
that
hidden
speaks
agenda.
volumes of who we are,
We take a
right?
gamble on you because we know you're worth it because we came back for you.
Yeah, we came
Yeah,
back for you, but we're not wasting the money that people are donating to
there
us.
you go.
We're not yeah, like that's and we're novel and we're unique. Like we really care about who we are and we care about what we're doing and we care about who the people are that come to us, that come and sit in seats at our organization. We
Yeah.
care about who we're dealing with. We care about the veterans that we're helping. We take, we give a shit. Let me just say that, Kelley.
Out loud.
We give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, in military, we have the BS monitor heightened. We're hyper vigilant when it comes to the BS.
Yeah.
And I think that might be one of the barriers to helping veterans is they can sniff out a program.
Mm-hmm.
They can sniff out an agenda. They can sniff out when they are now the subject.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost their humanity
Mm-hmm.
in your therapeutic intervention,
Yeah.
and they tend to stay away. That's one of the things that I appreciate about the military, the veterans so much, is because they demand that you treat them as a human being
Yeah.
because they've been there.
Mm-hmm.
They've had to look down their scope, or they've had to sit in front of, or they've had to hold the hand of, or they have sacrificed and gave up their life on behalf of strangers.
Yeah.
We've lived it, so that trauma has been a part of a military culture, regardless if you have been downrange or if you have been in the back.
You
We've
know,
all been that road.
parts of me, I kind of feel sorry for the VA parts of me because I feel
Mhm.
like they have this burden where they have to like figure out this problem. Like they have this social responsibility where there's this expectation that they have to figure out this problem that they didn't create.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
I think so.
you know, and they went from a 20 billion dollar budget to a 200 billion. They've had a 200 billion dollar increase in 20 years.
They're paying a lot of that in postage.
And they've had a 40% increase in veteran suicide. So
Yeah.
like they're not equipped to solve this problem. And
I
they
don't
didn't
think so.
create this problem. So I just I almost kind of feel sorry for
Mm.
them in a sense that like why do we put the expectation on them that like they have to solve this problem?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it just make more sense if the government was just a but they won't give Save a Warrior a dime, right?
Yeah.
They won't give other nonprofits a dime.
Oh,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I run into that with suicide prevention programming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we have a 99.5% success rate, but we can't get a dime.
Oh, that's
Do you
unfortunate.
see what I mean?
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Considering that the governments are now grantors of so many nonprofit, and then they can pick and choose um, what programs become available to those that are seeking help.
Well, even look at the Staff Sergeant Fox grant.
Hmm.
I mean, look who's the recipient of Staff Sergeant Fox grant. You've got these entities that are just like the VA. They're just layers and layers and layers of case management, um, uh, medical model
Mm-hmm.
type solutions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Of there's an entity in Ohio. They had to give back 2 years of Staff Sergeant Fox grant money because they couldn't fulfill their requirements.
Oh, the accountability structure.
Yeah, because it's so complicated and layered with this medical model. I'm like, we
Just
could have done miracles with that money. No, I mean, we couldn't have done miracles, but we could have done a lot with that money. We could have, um, you know, we could have done something with that.
sure.
You know,
Hmm. Um, I, One of the things that you talked about was the moral injury piece. And
yeah,
when we're talking of, and the holistic pieces, I would like to talk about that more, only because I'm part of that choir. I have sat back and I have been with people. And really, when it comes down to trauma, regardless if it was in a child or an adult, that it really has to speak to your value and your purpose and who you believe you are in this world. Like, what is your purpose in this world? What value do I hold? I don't think any of us have to be told um, that we are invaluable, but we learn it through experiences. Starting as a child, if you are a helpless child and you are accosted verbally, physically, if you don't have a place to sleep, you survive. You don't know anything different, but there's a part of you that speaks to that injustice. And I think moral injury gets to the injustices that occur. Does that make sense? You have a puzzled look on your face.
yeah, it does actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because the moral injury piece is like everything that happened to us that shouldn't have happened
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
everything that didn't happen to us that should have happened,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
There,
So
yeah.
injustice, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a moral compass
Yeah.
within each one of us
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't been addressed or brought to the table of how do we stop people from harming themselves? What is happening that is triggering that? And there it's
Shame.
multi-layered, as you know.
Shame.
When you get down to the crux of it, yeah, I believe it is a spiritual, it's a moral issue that has been damaged through external and
Yeah.
then the internal tape that we can speak to one another. And I think that's probably one of the things that attracted me to the Sable Warrior piece, just the fact we came
Yeah.
back. You know,
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
work we have to do, and you're worthy of it
Yeah.
because of who you are.
Absolutely. Worthiness. You're worthy of love. And, um, we're all hardwired for struggle, right?
Oh, yep,
But shame is the biggest piece. Like, shame will keep us, um, you know, that underlying shame will keep us from ever really being able um, to see that,
yep,
because we have to keep covering up that shame,
always.
right?
Yep,
Like if I, and that, especially any kind of childhood shame, right? The
yep.
moral injury piece, like I've heard, we do warrior meditation. And
Mhm.
so we have a patented form of warrior meditation.
Cool.
And our founder and our director of innovation, Adam Carr, they've looked at this, how it affects the brain too, and
Yep,
how our memories are stored, old brain versus new brain piece,
yep,
right? And
yep,
how, our childhood memories are stored in that old brain part, right?
yep. Your
And
amygdala. Mhm.
moral injury part is stored in the new brain, and how, you know the new brain is kind of like a windshield. It's like your windshield, and you can put
Mhm.
windshield wipers on and you can kind of wipe that away, and it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to process that moral injury piece than it is the formative trauma piece, right? This
Oh,
is the thing underneath the thing that's holding the problem in place. The
yeah,
moral injury piece you can process and deal with uh, a lot easier. Not easier, but this can be dealt with.
yeah,
This piece. This piece right here is what's holding this piece in place.
yeah.
Because if you deal with this piece and you don't ever get to this,
Doesn't stick. Doesn't
and you
hold.
don't even know that this piece, because you're never going to talk about this,
Yep.
you're going to keep telling this story over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You're just going to keep telling this story. You're never going to process this, because you're going to think this is what the problem is. You're never going to let go of this,
Yeah.
because you don't ever want to tell this story. This is the stuff you said you would take to the grave, and you
Always.
will always have shame on this.
Yep.
You're never going to want to tell this. You're going to tell this story over and over and over again.
Yep.
But
You ever
if you
done
tell
any
this
work?
story here, this story goes away. And
Yep.
if you get down to it and you really tell this story goes away too. And now, what do you have?
Complete.
You're complete.
Isn't it
And now
beautiful?
you can get complete with the source of your relationships.
Yeah. You're speaking. Do you ever heard any work with the Johari window?
No.
Oh, the Johari window, old school.
Yeah, yeah.
Four quadrants to a human being. What you know, what they know. That's kind of what you're talking about. Everybody can see it.
Yeah.
What
You
you
don't,
know, and they don't know.
yeah. And
No
what
one
you
doesn't.
don't know, you don't know.
And then yeah, that
Yeah.
black box of what you don't know and they don't know, but is driving you.
Yeah.
And the goal really in any kind of encounter as a human being or you is you get to determine what you're going to share with others or what, because not everyone's entitled to know anything about what you know about yourself, but there's that transparency piece,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's
Yeah.
really what the Johari window, when you look at a human being and what they know and what they don't know, in these quadrants. It really has to do with what are you going to keep that informs you, or what do you not know about yourself that
Mm-hmm.
others might
Mm-hmm.
know about you? And then those interactions of the transparent and concise interactions of communication that helps. And that's kind of what you're talking about, in
Mm-hmm.
some regard of,
Yeah.
what's in that black box that nobody knows about but's
Yes.
driving you.
Yeah. And what are you holding on to that's keeping you connected to your trauma?
How big is that
What
black
is
box?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we get to. We get
Yeah.
to that.
I have sat with individuals in crisis in the hospital at late night, 2 to 4 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, when you're more susceptible to be vulnerable with what you share, especially what you share with the chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
And it always surprised me the traumas that 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds, 70-year-olds carried with them. And then reading through the chart, or listening to the family members talk about how they see that person,
Mm-hmm.
you could see the trauma lived out sideways, but no one ever talked about it, or it was just accepted that this was a part of who they are, their foibles, or the way that they communicated, that
Mm-hmm.
transparency, and consistency, um,
Yeah.
was a little wonky, if you will.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So what you're
Yes.
talking about is Save a Warrior goes into that black box and invites
Yes.
you to bring it out into the open. How long is the
Yeah.
program?
In this really courageous space,
Hmm.
like uh, we have a container. Like we set
Hmm.
up this space in a container that is,
Yeah.
from the moment you step on our property, like, you know
Hmm.
that you're in a space. Um, you're in a space. You're going to be okay,
Hmm.
right? You're going to be okay, but you're about to come face to face with yourself.
Uh,
Yeah.
do you
You're about
prepare
to
people
come.
before they
Say
arrive?
again?
Do you prepare people before they arrive? These are the things
Yes,
to look
we
forward to.
do. Yeah,
Okay.
we teach them how to meditate before they come. We
Okay.
encourage them to meditate, right? We
Mhm.
have a video from one of our members who teaches them how to meditate. We have some reading that we have them do. Sobriety is important, so
Okay.
they have to be able to hear the conversation, because it really is one long dialogue. It's a long dialogue of conversation,
Right.
and they participate in that conversation at certain parts along the way,
Hmm.
and really they're coming face to face with themselves.
Yeah.
And we unpack a lot of films, and so they're able to see themselves in different characters in these different films that we use.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can see themselves in these different roles. Hmm.
Oh, how long is the
um,
program?
72 hours.
So they're on campus for 3 days, 72 hours.
Thursday to Sunday. So really they're on campus for 4 days. Yeah.
Okay.
At the village. Yes.
And
Yep.
then it sounds like there's follow up too.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. So on the last day, we unpacked the 500-day plan.
Ah.
Yes, we have a 500-day plan. We set them on a course of action,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets unpacked by the founder. And yes, and we set them on a course of action. They have a community of practice of which to do this with. We have
Oh.
shepherds who will take them through. I'm a shepherd, so I shepherd. I do a women's cohort every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
We usually have 6 women's cohorts every year, and so I'm in at least 4 of those. And I will, we run 2 cohorts simultaneously, so they're together, and then we bifurcate them into 2 different classrooms,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
for trauma processing. But So the shepherds will walk them through this whole journey of
Mm,
like being on at the village, you know, and then we help them in that 500-day plan
okay.
as well. And then they have a community of practice. So they're exposed. We have over 2,500 participants that have come through this experience. And we have a community of practice. We have a Facebook group, and there's a little over 1,700 people in that Facebook group, and
Oh,
over 1,200 of them are active on supporting each other
sure.
and commenting. And I mean, people just getting real and talking
Yeah.
about their stuff. Like, somebody in Idaho can just, talk about some of the things that they're experiencing in a
Mhm.
private,
Yeah.
supported, loved, we have a language that we speak, we
Mm,
like to say we talk funny, and we have a certain way that we talk to each other,
okay.
right?
There's ground
Where
rules.
we
I'm
don't
hearing ground
shame.
rules.
Yeah, we don't shame each other. We don't
Uh,
tell each other what to do. We don't,
mm,
we hold space. We just love, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Reflective listening,
Yeah,
allowing
listening.
yourself to
Love.
be who you need to be,
Yeah.
uh, which
We help
takes
if
a
we
lot of
need
work.
to. Yeah,
Takes a lot of work to create that environment. And
it does.
I haven't met anyone or any other program as of yet. So quite
Yeah.
unique. And it's in
Hmm.
Ohio.
Yep, it's in Ohio.
3 days intensive. They have work before and then they have 500 days after.
Yep.
And
A
then,
little bit of work before. So what you would do is if somebody wanted to come through our program,
yeah.
they would go to saveawarrior.org.
Okay.
They would go to apply. There's a
Hmm.
lot of information on that apply page.
Hmm.
So just keep scrolling down, because we do, chemical and process addiction
Hmm.
plays a huge role in people's suffering, right?
Yeah.
So we're always trying to cover up whatever it is we don't want to feel, right?
Yep.
And so we find that whether people are, tapping into their inside drugstores of, food, gambling, doom scrolling, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of process addiction, or they're just outwardly, you know, alcohol and
Mhm.
substances, right, into their bodies. So, you have to be able to hear the conversation. So we help people get sober if they need to. So there's a lot of information about that
Mhm.
prior to the application. We want you to be aware of that. We bring attention to that. So you would kind of scroll through that, and there's an application at the bottom of that page.
Mm.
And so you would go to that application, you would answer the questions at the bottom of the application. One would click submit when they're done filling out the application.
Mhm.
It doesn't say press here, it doesn't say click here. It says submit.
Mm. For a
There's a
reason.
reason. You're submitting an application.
Yeah.
You have to be done suffering. If you're not done suffering, we can't do anything for you.
Right.
That's all we ask. And then they would get an email
Mhm.
response
Mhm.
with some days and times that they would be available, options
Mhm.
that they could be available to have a rostering call. We like to pair up the men with the men and the women with the women.
Mhm.
We do have one or two men who are available for rostering with the women. They're safe men, right?
Mhm.
And so they would choose a time or day, and they would start that conversation in the rostering call, and they just start the conversation. And then that just
Mhm.
really determines if we're a right fit. So if this is something anybody is thinking about, like if
Mhm.
maybe something I said here resonates with anybody, at the least, fill out the application, hit submit,
Mhm.
and just have the rostering call. You don't have to commit to anything.
Mm.
You don't have to make a decision about anything. Just do the application, hit submit, have the rostering call, and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to donate, they can
Yep.
probably go to saveawarrior.org and donate
Yep.
too.
/donate. Yep. You can make a donation there, or you can mail it in too. You can
I'll put
write.
the
Yeah.
I'll put the mailing address in the description too.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can
do
say
that
that.
as well. If you wanted, there's a email that you can send me an email on the website. I think it's info at Save a Warrior. That you can, write some information there if you would like us to come speak at a convention or a conference or
Oh,
something. Yeah, we'd be happy. If you have a military employment resource group or a veterans employment resource group, like we do a lot with that too, because what happens is, when we get into our athlete warrior,
mhm,
right, we're always trying to cover up what
right.
we don't want other people to see.
Uh-huh.
And so often we hear from these veteran employment resource groups like, hey, Bob went home on Friday. We didn't suspect anything. We get a call on Monday. He committed suicide.
Right.
Like, he was fine. What happened? Like, we have no idea what happened. That is becoming more and more prevalent.
Mhm.
And it's those people where there's no signs. There's no signs, right?
Right.
Those are the people who actually do it.
The ones without the signs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, connecting with these military and veteran employment resource groups is so key because,
Okay.
they, yeah. So we do a lot of that. Like we do partner with them, and yeah. And our founder, you know, um, he's amazing, and he just him and Adam Carr, they just have a really unique way of connecting with the executive leadership. And we also, they do offer to corporations that are open to it, they will offer some training to corporations that are looking to um, advance veteran leadership, right, to executive positions. Yeah.
Thank you for taking time. Because I know
Yeah.
you're a busy person.
I
Uh,
am, but I'll always make time to talk about Save a Warrior because
yeah.
it's so near and dear to my heart, and it's beautiful what we're doing. In
I'm
our
glad you were
Yeah,
at the National American Legion
me too.
convention. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're an alum, Suzette. We're alums together. We're going to support each other because I know that the answers are going to come from us.
Hmm.
And that's what Saber Warrior is. We know how to walk alongside one another.
Hmm.
And we're going to bring the human piece is what I'm hearing. We're bringing all of us into the equation. We're not dismissing any part of who you are to address what is happening. In fact, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into of who you are is what I just heard you say is like we're going to bring that past in because that past influences your present
Yeah.
and we're going to heal it so it's
Hmm.
not controlling your thought process or controlling a need that you're having is what I'm hearing what
Yeah,
Civil
and
War
it's
is doing
and it's not dictating your future.
and not dictating because you get to be the part you get to drive who your future is because
Yes.
there isn't any of us that left to our own devices if we're dictating our future wants to do harm
Yeah.
to ourselves or to anyone else.
And we don't know that we don't know that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I always give the guest the last word. Anything that you can think of that we haven't talked about that you want to leave.
Um, Other than if you're listening to this, I just want you to know that you're worthy. You are so worthy
Mm.
of all the things, and if you're suffering, we have something for you. Yes, and we came back for you. And if you're a veteran, please know we built this for you. So,
Amen.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
It is stopping